Hello, friends and family. Welcome to another week of Awaken and Align. This is the 200th episode. I can't believe it. Yay. And it's a very important episode for me personally because I'm going to be sharing part of my personal story. The title of this episode is Transmuting Your Victim Story to a Manifester. This is very much the inspiration for my book, How to Manifest. Before I go any further, I wanted to announce a special Reiki circle. It is on October 28th, which is the lunar eclipse in Taurus. We're going to be doing a lot of releasing, a lot of holding space at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be with me and a couple of my students. And we are raising money for the Center of Safety and Change, which I just became a board member for. It's an organization that is very important to me and for my activism. As I was sharing on my social media, I am a survivor and thriver of domestic violence, of family violence, and I am sharing my story to help others in transmuting their story in order for them to really rewrite their story and not allow the happenings of the past prevent them from becoming who they truly are meant to be. And so, if you're watching the YouTube version, I just wanted to share my screen for a second to share with you about the Center for Safety and Change. It is based in Rockland County, which is where I grew up. It is so the Center for Safety and Change for more than 40 years has worked tirelessly with victims, survivors, and their family members, offering life saving and life changing programs and service to thousands in Rockland and beyond. On October 5th, 1979, we opened the doors to our emergency shelter and waited for the rotary phone to ring. The first day, we filled 11 beds, and on the second day, we filled the remaining four. Since then, the phones have not stopped ringing. Today, our shelter remains a safe haven for thousands of children and families. From Rockland Family Shelter to Center for Safety and Change, our agency has grown into our name as the only victim centered nonprofit organization in Rockland, offering free and confidential life changing programs and services to victims and survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, and other crimes. The mission statement: Center of Safety and Change provides critical services and support to women and all victims and survivors of gender-based violence and other crimes while working towards justice by creating social change. So I became a board member. Very interesting story. I wanted to volunteer because I wanted to give back, and my dear friend who's been on the podcast before, Anita Kopach, is also on the board. She convinced me to join so that I can make a bigger impact in the community and also to help the victims, survivors, and thrivers. And so we are raising funds for the center through this Reiki circle on October 28th. Like I said, all the information will be in the show notes and all funds will go to the Center for Safety and Change. And I will be continually sharing their message. If you didn't know, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And since I am a survivor and thriver, I wanted to be a part of this movement. So going back to this episode, I've shared my story various times throughout my podcast and throughout just being more public about this story. And what I find interesting about the victim story, the survivor story, is that it mutates and changes throughout our own healing journey. And so, how I'm speaking about my journey now is so different than when I first started speaking about it in like 2019. And I think it's important because I didn't really want to talk about being a victim anymore. I don't resonate with that title because I'm in the phase of my journey now where I've done a lot of healing, I've done a lot of shadow work, I've gone through a forgiveness journey. And again, healing is not linear. So, these things come back up sometimes. And in the last couple of months, I would say I'm kind of on the other side of the story. Again, not that healing ever ends, but I'm in a different point now than I was when I first started talking about this and sharing my story. Because at the beginning, I was very much still navigating like what this all meant. I was still going through my grieving moment and my mourning phase of my inner child and going through my rage and my anger and my resentment. And it's so interesting because that was before COVID and that was before the pandemic. And then I ended up coming back home after being 20 years away. And the last 3 years has been coming back to my childhood home, coming back to the place in which all of this happened, and healing my relationship with my parents, both parents, and getting in touch with my inner child and making sure my inner child feels safe. And yeah, it's been quite the journey. It has not been easy. It has been very triggering, but this was my choice too. I just want to say I'm not telling everybody, you have to go back to your parents and forgive them. No, I'm just sharing my journey and the decisions that I made. And I am not recommending this for everybody. Everyone's on their own journey, and we all forgive or not forgive in your own way. And honestly, there are some things that I don't know if I would ever forgive or forget. Those are parts of me that I just have to accept and move on. But it's just a very complex and nuanced situation that is not black and white. It's like a lot of things in life. It's not binary. You can't just say like good or evil, black and white, dark or light. And this is why this work is so important, because we don't have light without darkness. And a lot of us go through these dark times in silence. And what I found with sharing the story is a lot of people go through something like this. So many people DM me after I share this publicly on Instagram. And, obviously, I know the statistics: 1 in 3 women go through some kind of intimate partner violence or experience some form of domestic violence. 1 in 4 men. And a lot of these things don't even go reported because, for me specifically, this was cultural. We respect our elders in Korean culture. We don't speak out about these kind of things. It's very patriarchal. I know everybody is interested in Korean culture now with K-pop, K-drama, K-beauty, but there is a darker side to every culture. I just wanted to put that out there. And honestly, I wanted to protect my family. I wanted to protect my parents because there's a lot of shame and there's a lot of embarrassment. I just wanted my family to be quote unquote normal, right? But not sharing this at this point in my journey just seems inauthentic. It just seems like I'm leaving a part of myself out. And this is so much a part of my story and what motivates me. And I have to say, I guess pre 2020, it motivated me in such a kind of ferocious way. Like I was very driven by safety and security. So I would definitely run away from things. And I was definitely in the fight or flight. I was definitely dysregulated. But now in 2023, in this moment, I am motivated by helping others and being of service to others, because the more I share my own personal story and show you that I'm not perfect and I don't have it figured out, but I am navigating this just as much as anybody else is, just makes me feel like I'm standing in my truth. And I also wanted to share with you the energetics of this and why this is tied to manifestation. Again, manifestation for me is co-creation. And the reason why I wanted to write a book about manifestation and talk about manifestation is oftentimes the darker sides of our story are left out. And like, you hear manifestation gurus and coaches and wellness and spiritual, like new agey people only talk about love and light and only couch it as something that's like, it's just in your thoughts. Your thoughts create your reality, and it makes you feel like you're not doing it right because you're not figuring out how to manifest. And then you feel like it's not real and it doesn't work. But I'm here to tell you that it does work and it's not your fault. And a lot of it has to do with our trauma and our belief systems. And again, not to get all psychology one-on-one on you, but a lot of our beliefs and what we believe to be true is tied to how we were raised and our parents and how we were raised by them, our cultural upbringing, our gender norms, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's just a matter of deconstructing and remembering who you truly are. And I truly believe we are the purest form when we are children. We know who we are and we live in the moment. It's just we forget. So this is just a process of remembering again and reclaiming those parts of ourselves. So the first thing I want to say about this is just again, like interjecting parts of my own story and using myself as an example, because you're going to go through a part of your journey where you're going to identify yourself as the victim, and that's not a bad thing. Okay. In order for you to recognize and not bypass anymore what happened to you, you have to recognize what happened to you. You have to be honest with that. And that honesty and that acceptance is very fucking painful, I have to say, because you have to relive a lot of the trauma and a lot of the pain that you went through. And a lot of us don't want to go through that again. Trust me, I ran away from it for my whole entire life. Looking back and feeling and remembering those memories, which to be honest with you, a lot of my memories, I don't have good memories because I choose to block some of those things out because it was too painful for me as a child. And witnessing and being a victim of abuse, my literal like consciousness would, my soul would leave my body to protect itself. Okay. Like if we're being totally honest here. And so I disassociate a lot of my life. Um, and so my work in the last couple of years has been more of embodiment and being in my body and knowing that it's safe. So a lot of my memories are scattered. And also I was gaslit for a long time, me and my sister, like it didn't happen. What are you even talking about? So repairing that was a journey. Um, so I understand why people don't want to admit what happened to them. It's very painful. And also, like, let's be honest, like my culture doesn't even believe in mental health. There aren't resources for therapy. Therapy is expensive, and we don't live in a society where these kinds of resources are available to anybody. So I get it. Um, we have no sense of community building and community care. You really have to seek that out. And I stress this so much because honestly, if it wasn't for the people in my life, the friends that I've made, the community that I've made on TikTok specifically, I don't know how I would have gone through this, because so many people from my past who I knew during my trauma filled years don't want to deal with their own trauma. So it's like really hard to relate and talk about these things, especially if you've trauma bonded with people. That may be a whole other story in another podcast episode. So I just want to say you're going to go through that victim story and you're going to then go into a rage, resentment, and anger stage. And this is where I was for many years, specifically during the pandemic. I blamed my parents for fucking me up. I blamed them for my commitment issues, my issues with like men and how I distrust men and my dysregulated nervous system and just so many different things. I blame them. And again, this is not to say we can't hold these people accountable. If people in your life who abused you continue to abuse you, you leave. You do your thing, right? But I made the decision to like heal with my parents because I stayed away from them for many years. And I didn't talk to my father for many years. And I didn't want to be a part of his life. I didn't want him to be a part of my life for many years. So, again, this has been a very up and down journey. And at the end of the day, as I got older, I chose this. And I'm not recommending this for everybody because it's not going to be for everybody. So please use your own discernment in your own journey. But I realized because specifically, I would say it was around 2020, 2018 and 2019, and I've spoken about this in my manifestation episodes, that I was going through a lot of manifestation courses. And it's interesting because the manifestation courses were separate from like healing and from like trauma classes. But for me, like a lot of this is integrated. It's all the same. It all comes from the same root cause, which is the trauma that I experienced as a child affected my relationship to money and my romantic partners. And a lot of people are interested in this part of my journey. So if you want me to do a separate episode about this, I'm happy to. My friend Daphne yesterday said there's a whole case to be said about money, men, and magic and manifestation because they're all tied. So I heard somebody say, and I don't remember who it was specifically. So if this is you, credit to you, that the way you treat money is the way that you should be treating your romantic partner, which is like with love and with respect and care and nurturing. And I thought about that because the way that I saw romantic partners, not always in the beginning, but definitely through the years, was through avoidance, not allowing them fully into my world, skepticism, not trusting them. And again, that is my own thing. Like, I really needed to heal my trauma from my childhood because of, because, like I said, this is tied to my past. I didn't know this stuff like growing up. This is only like after the fact that I realized this. And so I made the connection that manifesting money and romantic partners are tied. And so that led me on to looking deeper at my money beliefs. And usually, our money beliefs and the way we feel about our romantic partners are tied to a feeling of safety and security. Because in our patriarchal capitalistic world, that is what we attribute romantic partners and money to. Okay. We are definitely evolving that framework, that paradigm. But for a really long time, for a lot of people, money equals security, which then equals stability, which then equals freedom. For romantic partners in a cis hetero relationship, men like represent a kind of stability, a kind of security, a kind of, like safety in some way. And then obviously when you go through a romantic partnership, you realize, wow, I have a lot of I have a lot of limiting beliefs around this topic. So that was the gateway for me to look deeper into the root cause of my beliefs around money and romantic partnerships, which then led me to my deep feeling of insecurity, which was tied to my trauma as a kid. And I actually have a little snippet of this in on my Instagram and my TikTok, but it's part of a longer discussion around like Pluto and like very traumatic Pluto transits. which is in episode 199 with Stephanie Campos in our October astrology, because there are definitely astrological transits that triggered this like awakening within me. And Pluto was definitely one of them, because Pluto was squaring my natal Pluto and my Saturn. I have a Pluto Saturn conjunction in the sign of Libra. So if you were born between 1980 and 1983, but specifically 1982 and the beginning of 83, we had this Pluto and Libra conjunction, Pluto and Saturn in the sign of Libra conjunction. And that is transforming relationships and our definition of relationships and how we feel safe and secure about them. And so this like little subgroup of a generation of millennials, we are going through our Pluto square, which is being triggered also by the South Node. And I was talking about this in that episode. And it's interesting how so many of you who have this in your chart are going through similar topics, because again, Pluto is also represents wealth, represents relationships. And so it's just being more magnified that these shadow aspects of us are coming to the surface so that we can look at them and that we can integrate them, so we can have like long-term partnerships with somebody and have wealth in our life. Okay, if you've never experienced that before, finally transmuting that story. And I feel very passionate about this because for a long time, people have asked me my belief systems around marriage and my belief systems around, um, just like partnership in general and love and all that stuff. And it's been really hard for me to express these things because it's been this lifelong journey of just trying to figure my own self out with my parents and their fucking karmic relationship. Okay. Like, I finally feel secure enough and stable enough in my own body that I am ready and ready and open to call in a partnership of my own. But it's only because I've done the work. So, what happens when you keep tying yourself to the victim story? Again, like, we will for a while. That's just kind of like embedded, I feel like, or inherent or expected when you go through this healing journey. But at some point, you're going to have to let that go. And I think I came to this realization sometime in 2021 or 2022. I don't remember the exact date, but I came to the realization that I needed to stop blaming my parents, because I was giving my power away and I didn't have agency over my life. And I brought up Pluto because Pluto is all about power, wealth. It's all about having control over your own narrative. And so when you cling to your victim story, how that might show up in your relationships and also with like your life in general is this codependency. Like, somebody needs to save you. Somebody needs to come in, swoop you up. And honestly, when I was a kid, I prayed for somebody to come save me. If you've ever watched Forrest Gump, you remember that scene when Jenny and Forrest are in front of her father's house, who abused her. And she'd be like, Forrest, pray with me. And she'd be like, please, God, make me a bird so I could fly far, far away from here. And I fucking bawled at that scene because I just wanted somebody to save me. So there were moments in my journey, my spiritual journey, where I was so literally, that's all I had was faith in a God or universe or goddess. But then at the same time, be like, why the fuck are you doing this to me? And then like my faith was very wavered. But how this shows up is a savior, victim savior dynamic between you and a romantic partner or a friend or people in general or a parent, right? So you have this codependency and this need for somebody to save you. That also lends to like a chaser mentality. Like I have to chase somebody, I have to control somebody to like love me, to keep me safe, to like a need. Okay. So now we're talking about the energy behind this. And then it also creates this dynamic where you need outside validation for yourself. Okay. Because again, when you are in this victim story, you are giving your power away because you're saying that your outside circumstances have the power to claim you, have the power to like suppress and repress and oppress you. But then if you transmute that story at some point when you're ready, only when you're ready, because you have to be ready, nobody can force you out of the situation. You change the story and say, I am taking my power back. Nobody can save me. Nobody in the same breath can oppress me. And so, one thing that I really repeat to myself is that just as nobody can like complete me, because I wrote this in my book, that Jerry Maguire scene like fucked everybody up because if you remember him telling Renee Zellweger, you complete me. And I really think that fucked people up because it sounds really romantic, but nobody should be completing you. You should be completing you. You should be whole. You need to fill that void within yourself, right? Because just as nobody can completely complete you, nobody can fucking burn you down. Nobody can hurt you to the point where you are broken. This is a lesson that I needed to take, I guess, a fucking decade to learn. But I was so distraught after my last relationship that did not like work out. And I blame myself for it because I was like, I'm messed up. I am broken. Nobody will ever love me because I am just this like broken person. I don't know how to keep a relationship together. So it was a long journey of me realizing that there was nothing wrong with me. There was nothing broken about me. I just never understood these things because nobody teaches you these things. Okay. So when you finally decide to break free of your victim story and you start transmuting that story into a manifester, again, manifester is just co creation. You are actively participating in rewriting your story and you having agency and sovereignty over how your future plays out because we can't change how, like, where we were born, who we were born to. We can't change the things that have happened to us or what we have done to other people, right? Because this is why we have to break the cycle of violence because the oppressed become the oppressor. It's very important to transmute these energies because otherwise they will make us self-destruct, self-sabotage, or we end up doing harm to others. So I am actively breaking the cycle of violence in my lineage and my family because I don't want this shit to go on because I believe that in this lifetime that's what I came to do. I came to break generational cycles, curses. Okay, it stops with me. I'm sick of this shit. So because of that, I have to transmute this. I have to transmute. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. You just have to change the direction of the energy, the fuel for the energy, because it's just energy. Okay. Remember when I said there's going to be a moment where you're going to be angry, you're going to be enraged? Those are very healthy because there was an injustice there. When you're ready to use that energy in a way that is for you, it's not to harm others or yourself. You just change the direction of that energy to where it's creation energy for you and to be of service of other people. So how did I do that? I decided that I wasn't going to blame my parents anymore, even though it's funny sometimes. Like, honestly, I still do that sometimes. Um, and sometimes I use that to tell my dad, like, you need to clean up your shit because Nobody's going to love me if they come to this house and they see you're hoarding. Okay, it's funny sometimes, but anyway, um I decided I'm going to stop blaming other people. I'm going to stop blaming my ex-boyfriends. I'm going to stop blaming my ex-friends. I'm going to stop blaming my parents. But obviously, they did their part in the wrong, right? But I'm going to take ownership in how I can show up differently. And now I'm creating a different story. It happened. It's done. I'm not going to allow this to affect me and my peace and my energy anymore. I'm moving on. And my story is what gives me power because I fucking survived that shit. And I didn't let it break down my spirit. I didn't let it break down my soul. I didn't let it break down my optimism. And more importantly, I didn't let it break down my belief in love, in unconditional love, and it didn't let me break down my faith. If anything, it reinforced my belief in humanity. It reinforced my belief in community and healing and everything that I stand for. Because if I can stand here and forgive my parents, the people who like were supposed to keep me safe, that didn't sometimes. If I can stand here with unconditional love, empathy, and compassion and see things in a different way. And I talk about this in my book a little bit about ancestral healing of like breaking the cycle of violence because my father was abused and his grandparents abused his parents. So like again, like I am stopping that cycle. So it only fortified my belief in this, my faith and this work. So once you let go of your victim story and you transmute it, the energy is different because and I wish I had a diagram for this, but like when you cling to your victim story and you say, why is this happening to me? This is happening to me. And you seek out external validation. So you look outside of yourself to find worth within. That is having your external circumstances make meaning for yourself and your worth. So the energy comes internal, right? And so anytime a big tower moment, something happens externally, or somebody makes a comment on your Instagram or your TikTok, or anything in the external environment affects you and your feelings about yourself, that is not being in your power. That is not taking your power back. So the energy goes this way, right? Where manifestation is all about the law of attraction, like attracts like. And you magnetize things towards you because we live in an energetic universe. So when you start living in your authenticity and your power, you become the power source and things become magnetized towards you. Do you see the difference of like the energy and like the direction of the energy? So again, like if you are clinging to your victim story and you are looking outside of yourself for validation and you are worried about what people think about you and you are worried about what you even like are doing and like being judged, you are giving your power away. So the energy is not moving like in the direction that you want it. You're chasing, you are pushing because you are not directing that energy back to you. Okay? So when you are in your power and you live in your truth and your authenticity and you are literally in your worth and your power, you start magnetizing things towards you. And when I understood this is when everything started changing for me. Now, when you are living in your authenticity, there are videos going around about this on TikTok, and I couldn't find like a peer reviewed research article because, like, I don't know if science and um, Yeah, I don't know if science and the scientific method has caught up to like the energetics of this, of what I'm talking about, but a few people are talking about this, that the highest vibration is authenticity. It's higher than love. And what I mean by higher, I just mean like more attractive and magnetic. So, um, there's two things that make you live in your authenticity. And we talk about authenticity all the time, right? But not many people are living in their authenticity because we are tribal beings. We want to feel included. We want to be validated by the people we love, our community. We want to be accepted, right? So saying something and being afraid of how that will like rock the boat or make other people feel prevents us from living in our authenticity. So trust me, like when I'm in my like activism mode and there's so many things that I want to say that sometimes I don't say because I'm afraid that it's going to hurt people's feelings, or I'm afraid of how it's going to be seen by people who don't understand or have the same like intellectual capacity that I do or do the same kind of research that I do. But then I take a step back and say, if I don't share this, I'm not living in my authenticity. I'm not living in my truth. Like I am meant to share my voice. I'm meant to share things because that's my purpose. Um, that is what I'm here to do. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm not living in alignment with myself. So you are doing two things when you're living with your authenticity. Number one, when your words are true, when your words are true. And number two, when you believe what you say. So whatever I'm sharing, always I believe that they are true and I stand by what I say because it is in alignment with my values, my core values, and what I believe. Yes, over time, sometimes like my beliefs change. And I hope they do because I keep learning and unlearning things. And that's all a part about um, being a student of life, being a seeker, is sometimes we are presented with new information that dispel things that we've believed in, like I used to believe in things that my parents taught me or that like Western media taught me or that like my teachers taught me that just aren't true. So this is all malleable, right? But when you are in your authenticity, when you take your power back and when you start sharing your story and your truth, it is the highest vibration. And when you're speaking from that place, you are automatically magnetic, you are automatically attractive. And I'm telling you, once I started sharing like my truth and what I believed in through my podcast and my TikTok, that is when I started attracting to me people who are on the same wavelength as me because again, not everybody is going to be for you, not everybody is going to understand you, not everybody's going to believe in you. If anything, I've seen more people against me than I've ever seen because again, not everybody's going to be on the same page, but that's okay because you want to be, and this is such a Libra season, Libra eclipse kind of thing, like you want to be aligned with people who support you. And I have to truly say that, yeah, it was painful having to lose a lot of people that I grew up with, having to say goodbye to friends that have known me since I was young. But honestly, I would, again, not be where I am today. I would not have been able to transmute all of these things if I didn't find a support system who literally understood what I was going through and helped me through that process. So, just to summarize, um, and there's so much more to say about this topic. So, hopefully, I can share more. And I want to hear your stories as well. Transmuting your victim story to one of manifester is like a multi-layered, nuanced, complex journey. And there's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. There's no good or evil. There's no light or dark. It's all a journey and it's unique to you. And I just want to send you all love because we're all going through something. We're all healing something, moving through things. And I promise you, things are getting better. We're just more aware of the atrocities, of the pain and suffering of others. And we are all here to share our stories so that we can form human empathy and connections with each other. So, again, me sharing my story, I want to invite you to join our healing circle on October 28th. All the funds go to the Center for Safety and Change, and you can learn more about them through their website. And I really, really hope that this helped you in any way in your own journey. And as always, I love you so much and thank you so much for listening. Bye.